Hey y'all, I'm Charlie Bonner.
I'm Pohlmeyer.
Here with Progress Texas, and we are back at the Texas Capitol today, as it seems we always are in these final days, to protest against Senate Bill 9, that terrible anti-voter bill that we've been talking about all session.
Absolutely, and earlier you might have seen we held a press conference with a lot of our different advocate partners and really Texans from across the state who have come together to the Capitol here to make sure that our voices are heard and make sure that lawmakers stop this dangerous bill from becoming law.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about that press conference is we were delivering more than 7,000 signatures from people all over the state of Texas who are speaking out against Senate Bill 9 and for free and fair elections today.
Absolutely, and we did make that petition delivery, but you can still take action.
Yes.
Every time you sign our petition, and the link is up above, you are able to send an email directly to the House Elections Committee and make sure that they know that you say they should vote no on Senate Bill 9. Now, what would Senate Bill 9 do, Charlie? Why are we so against this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different provisions in this, and I think all of them have a sort of a cooling effect on voting. They create fear around the voting process for people that is going to prevent more people of color, folks with disabilities, young people, the elderly from turning out.
Absolutely.
And that's just wrong. We are in a state with terrible voter turnout, some of the lowest in the country, even under states that in places like Puerto Rico that don't even have full voting rights. Texas ranks even lower than that, and we need lawmakers to be doing everything they can to create a culture of voting and create a culture of engagement civically, but instead we're seeing attacks on the voting booth. So the one that I'm most concerned about, and maybe I think you've been following some other parts, is kind of the criminalization effect that we're seeing on aspects of voter registration. So I'm a volunteer deputy registrar myself, so I'm trained to register other people to vote, and I can tell you people make mistakes all the time. It's a kind of wonky form that people fill out real quick, especially if we're on college campuses. I've set up in front of supermarkets and places before. People fill out these forms really quick and mistakes happen. And what we're seeing in this bill is there are increasing penalties on that would send people to jail for making simple mistakes.
Yeah, and I think whenever you fill out a form or just write down your name, mistakes happen.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a wonky form as well. It's an outdated process.
And there were two groups on that I think really stood out to me. One, trans folks. So that sometimes people go by a certain gender identity, but maybe they haven't gone through the court process to fix that. If they filled out with how they identified, but not with the court process, they could go to jail for that. Or maybe you go by a surname, you have a long, several names in your last name that maybe it doesn't fit all on a form, and you go by a surname. That could technically be you lying on a government form and then have a chilling effect there. And this is just not how we should be doing this. What we really need is things like online voter registration, where you wouldn't have any problems like this. You wouldn't have the same mistakes.
Absolutely, and I think we also heard a little bit earlier today, we shared some stories of why people are against Senate Bill 9, and one of those stories came from the Austin-Travis County EMS president, Selena Gee, and she is really against this because as a first responder, as an EMS first responder, she doesn't get a lot of time to vote during the day, and so sometimes they do have to it's like between calls that they have to make that time to go and vote because they're out there saving lives. No big deal.
Which is what we want them to do.
Yes, absolutely.
We need them focused.
But there are some provisions that would lengthen the amount of time that she might have to wait to vote, make voting lines longer, as well as prevent even the EMS vehicle from parking a certain distance from the polling place. And so there are a lot of issues there with that part of the law. I think something else that has stood out to me as part of Senate Bill 9 is that it really dissuades people and makes them fill out this official form for just driving somebody to the polls. Now, if I wanted to drive my grandmother to the polls, or
someone who may need assistance,
or anyone who may
people who need assistance in voting, and it really, I was talking to a lawyer about this who's been practicing law in Texas for years. She said, I don't sign an affidavit for things. That puts me up for liability. Why would someone who's just driving their grandmother and they need to help them vote? That creates a culpability for them that we don't need.
Absolutely.
We simply don't need these, and there are plenty of states across this country that are having freer and fairer elections than we have here in Texas, and they're doing just fine. These are arbitrary rules that are trying to clamp down the system and keep people from voting.
Absolutely, and I think this is part of a larger narrative that we're seeing ahead. And we know everyone who turned out to vote in the 2018 midterms, you made a statement, and you made sure that people in power right now, they are scared. They are scared to lose their seats. They're scared to lose their seats here in this Capitol, and now they're trying to enact laws that will keep themselves in power. And so we need to make sure that our voices are heard. We need to make sure that we sign our petitions, and we need to make sure that we keep voting. And so it's so important in our upcoming elections, in local elections, and in 2020 especially, that we make sure that our voices are heard and make sure that we hold these lawmakers that work here where we are accountable.
And people are having trouble having their voices heard here today.
Yes.
So we're here for the committee hearing, and several hundred people have registered to testify today. But the chair of the committee, Stephanie Click, cut off the amount of people that could testify. She cut it off 30 minutes after the hearing started, which is
at
totally
8:30 a.m.
8:30 a.m. So people that were coming in from all over the state are not getting the opportunity to have their voices heard before this committee today, and this is totally unprecedented. So this bill is silencing people at the ballot box, and they are silencing people here at the Capitol today, and we have to ask ourselves why. Why don't they want to hear from Texans?
Absolutely, and I think we're seeing that a lot throughout our different laws that we're seeing, but especially here with Senate Bill 9. We are petitioning and calling on Stephanie Click to reopen the registration process to let more Texans' voices be heard. If you are here at the Capitol, we encourage you to stay here. If you aren't at the Capitol, but you're in the Austin area, we encourage you to come here and be with us. We are going to be rallying at 3 o'clock, and so we'll bring you live coverage from that. And
one of the things we're doing, we have so much to do. And one of the things that we have been doing, and we're going to continue to do through the afternoon, is recording the testimonies of those who haven't been allowed to speak today. If Chairwoman Click won't listen to these people, we will. And we want to make sure that you hear their voices too. So be sure you're checking those out on our Twitter today, and we'll be bringing some more of those. And we're going to have a speak out this afternoon with some of those folks who won't be able to testify this afternoon.
Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We so much appreciate you. And please comment below with why you're against Senate Bill 9, and we'll make sure to share those throughout the day. Thank you.
Y'all.